So I would like to introduce the trainer for you today. Our trainer for today is Miss Asha. She is an early years facilitator with us for a long, long time. With us, at Tips, that is Tips E-Road, from where we are connecting with you. And she has a plethora of experience over the years taking KG1, KG2. So she'll be bringing in front of you how she takes the classes, how she does it, what are her philosophy towards inquiry, how has she taken that, and with those examples and practical things. And that's what has always been our forte, is showcasing, directly from the classroom what we do, so that you can take back to your classroom. And we'll have Miss Shantini Prabha, who last week, the last session she had facilitated. Today she'll be supporting her, as part of the presentation. So without taking a lot of your time and without having, wasting others' time, it's almost like 10 in my clock, 10 in my watch. So we can just start. Asha, are you ready?
Yes, Tanu ma'am, we'll start.
All right. So we have Asha.
So very happy morning, everyone. Thank you for the wonderful introduction, Tanu ma'am. And I just want you to think about 3 questions here. That is, what do you notice? What do you wonder? And how would you explore it further? So scan this barcode. Yes, even it's posted in the chat box, or you can scan this barcode using this Google Lens. Click on the plus symbol and just type in your answers in the respective box. Eagerly waiting for your answers, participants. Yes, a collection of natural materials, a lot of loose parts, curiosity to learn new things, different objects. What do you wonder about? Yes, how do we use them? How are they going to connect? Yes, how are they connected? How do they identify the objects? Yes, what is the children thinking? It's from their point of view. Good. And how would you like to explore it further? Yeah, you notice they're observing and exploring, individual learning with the materials, and you wonder what the children are thinking. Oh, is it some fun? What are the different objects in the table? குழந்தைகளின் ஆராய்ச்சி. Yes, thank you. And you would explore it by touching the textures. Yeah. Play-based with learning. And what I'm going to learn new. Trial and error method. Exactly. So great going. Exploring nature materials. Yes, you notice them exploring the nature materials, the different sizes and the types of things. Wow, thank you, participants. The students working collaboratively. Yes. So you'd explore that, what I'm going to learn new. Yeah. Visible learning, taking it further to explore about the five senses. Analyzing, question triangle, learning with activities based on these materials.
We also have few responses in the chat box.
Okay. I wonder what excites them most about this activity. Yes, touch and feel the objects by researching. Great. What is the connection to the real world? Yeah. How they relate to their real life. Yes, I notice the learners are curious. The learners exhibiting the social skills. Thank you so much, participants. So this made me boost myself that you are all with me. Great going. Yes. So this is how exactly the children engage in inquiry. They see something, they wonder about it, and explore the ways to find out more. This is the essence of inquiry-based learning. So moving on to the next slide is the conceptual goals. Understanding the inquiry-based learning and its stages, exploring effective strategies, hands-on activities, real-life classroom applications, assessment, reflection, and feedback. Yes. Yes. Here comes what is inquiry-based learning. So this is nothing but an approach where the learners, they actively explore, they ask questions, and they start investigating to construct their own understanding. So it's not about giving the learners all the answers. It's all about helping them to discover the answers themselves. So here, first stage is questioning. Questioning is nothing but igniting the curiosity in young learners. And once we kindle that curiosity in these young learners, that too, especially we are talking with the age group of 2.5 to 6. So when we kindle that curiosity, automatically they start exploring it. So they start investigating. So once they start investigating, the young learners, they never leave. They want to investigate something through that hands-on experiences. So that investigation helps them to reflect what they have learned. So here, the curiosity drives the inquiry forward. So our responsibility is to nurture that curiosity in that young learner's mind before we start with something. Then the hands-on experiences and the interactions that they have with their peers. So that helps them to analyze the information and make connections. Yes, next. So how many of you agree with me that from birth, the learners are the natural inquirers? So if you agree, just give me a thumbs up here. Yes, that's true because they touch, they taste, and they explore everything that's around them. So, as I said, our role is to nurture that curiosity in those young minds. Next is moving on to the power of hands on learning. So, this is all about thinking, questioning, and problem solving. So let's explore why this matters. Our learning is always challenging, engaging, relevant, and significant. Look at these images. What do we notice here? We just see in the first and the last image, the child is peeling the carrot, and in the other one, the child is grating it. And in the second picture, The child is arranging the cubes on the mat. Next is the child is arranging the patterns on his mat. Yes. Kindly mute yourselves, participants. Yes. So each of these activities may seem simple, but they are all powerful inquiry-based learning experiences. So the magic of carrots, nothing but it connects to the practical life and their sensory exploration. So here, just we hold up the whole carrot and the grater, and we just ask them, what do you think will happen when we use this carrot? So we invite the child to predict, to experiment something and observe. We could also start giving them the basic questions like, what happens when we press it hard? How does the texture change? So since we deal with the age group of this 2.5 to 6, our learners should always use their senses to answer. Our questions should be framed in such a way where their sensory experiences their senses should be used to answer. That is, it should be visually appealing for them. So, connected to real life, where else do we use this grating? How does this help your mom in cooking? To connecting it to math, we can just tell them, can you collect any 5 objects of the same color? So all these questions helps the learners to develop the fine motor skills, to make them more independent, and to ignite the curiosity in them. The next picture is the tower challenge. This is nothing but actually the child we had just given her the blocks and we just made her to stack one on the other. So she had created the tower. I just put up a question over there. If I shake it, will it fall? So the child, she tried it and she just shaked it. Again, it falls. She failed. Again, she tried it. And you know what happened? This picture shows the inquiry in action. She started to arrange that on the mat. And she told me, if you just look from this point of view, it looks like a tower. Even if I shake it, it's not going to fall. So there exists inquiry in action. So to connect it to real life, we had just asked one of her peer to join with her. And we just told her, can you build a tower that is really stronger? They had also started with the memory exercises, which helps them to bring out their social emotional development. This also helps them for problem solving and critical thinking. And in the third image, that is the boy who has started arranging the patterns. In all our classes, we may have this color cylinders. So initially, he had taken one and he started arranging it. First, he had arranged the red cylinders, and once when he had taken two, he started arranging the red, yellow. He had started with the patterns. And when we asked him to take three and work, he wants to arrange it like this. So this helps him to connect to math, that is the logical thinking. And we just added up a question asking him, where do we see patterns in nature? So immediately he said zebra stripes. And the one who is sitting in the nature exploration corner, he just showed me a leaf and told me even the leaf have patterns in it. And the one who is sitting next to him showed his t-shirt and told me, even our t-shirt have patterns, ma'am. So this helps them to build the early math skills, the observation, and the logical reasoning. Now wrapping up why inquiry matters. So it's not just about answering all the questions. It's all about making the learners how to think. So Why inquiry is important? It helps them to build the curiosity and the critical thinking. That is nothing, it just encourages them to wonder and seek answers from them. So once when we nurture this curiosity, that leads to critical thinking. Next is problem solving. So we should always encourage them to do this. That is, we should always give them the challenges instead of waiting for the direct answers. So this is nothing but it helps them to encourage their problem solving skills. Next is independence. So independence, if we take from our point of view, really if we are confident in something, we gain the ownership of that process. The same happens with this early learners also. So if they are really independent in something, they gain the ownership of learning process. So it helps them to build the curiosity and critical thinking. It encourages the problem solving skills. It develops the independence and confidence. Now, let's watch a short video that shows how the inquiry-based learning works in real classroom. Yes. Yes. So this is one of the video of the in happening of inquiry in one of our classroom. So can you just put up in the chat box what learning outcome can you identify from this video? What is the learning outcome that you can identify from this video? Yeah, finding the way, problem solving, great. Curiosity, yes. It was adventurous. Find the directions. Again, problem solving. It's problem solving. Thinking and finding the directions. Overcoming the obstacles. The child was wondering. Thinking skills. Enjoying the game. Experience with experimental. Yeah. Take decision. Independence. Spatial awareness. Playway learning. Confidence. Exploring. Problem solving. Yeah. Thank you so much, participants, for your interaction. Yes, using critical thinking, finding a way through thought process, self-learning, Gaining the confidence. Magirchi. Nirai Katran. Okay. Think about how to move next. Self-confidence. Yeah, problem solving, taking the ownership of learning. Finding the way by own. Yes. Planning and strategy. Okay. Yes. Thank you for your answers. So it was actually used for one of our lines of inquiry, that is decision involved in for the transportation inquiry. So here the decision making by selecting the shortest path to reach. It also helps them to visualize and navigate the spaces. As you said, the spatial awareness and connecting it to real life by choosing the fastest route while traveling. Yeah. Next, the key elements of today's inquiry classroom. So, as facilitators, we should keep in mind these key elements before we lead an inquiry. Yes. So, the first is voice, choice, time to reflect, creativity in action, thoughtful inquirers, inquiry driven decision makers, self assessment, and holistic learning. So, I would just like to explain this with an example of construction play. So, this had been done in one of our KG classroom for their assessment. The learners were asked to put back everything that's there with them. They had asked to put back all their pencils, papers, all the materials, and they had we just made the learners to split it into groups, and they just sat near the construction corner. So the topic given to them was build a dream town. So the learners, they created a town by using the blocks, the natural materials, and the recycled materials. So each child shared his or her ideas to what to choose. So a team had started building the hospital, the other team, they started with the school and the other park and so on. So we just provided them with the materials like the wooden blocks, cardboard, clay, straws, the nature materials, and the children, they had the choice to choose the type of material they need. So we just encourage them to explain why they choose specific materials for their structures. And when it's time to reflect, once that's done, few of our learners, they had just taken the pencil and paper and they started to draw the structure of what they had done over there. And they started discussing the challenges they faced while constructing it. So the simple prompts we should give to them, that could be like, what did you really enjoy the most? And what would you change? So all these simple prompts helps them to reflect. So once when they had done everything, they had just went for a gallery walk. Soon they need to extend their creativity by saying that we had missed out a playground for the school. So we just need to add a playground for the school. And the one who had done with the hospital, they just identified that we had missed out a ramp. So we need a ramp for the patients to move in a wheelchair. So all these real life connections help them to experiment with different materials where they try to solve their own problem. Next is thoughtful inquirers. So once everything is completed, they try to connect the schools and the parks with a bridge. They just started connecting the schools and the parks and then the park to the hospital. So, but we just given them the open-ended questions like, what makes your bridge really strong? How could you improve your design? So all these simple prompts helps them to build their inquiry stronger. Then the inquiry driven decision makers is nothing but they had chosen the shape which they need, the size and the materials based on their own understanding. That is, based on their needs, they started choosing the materials. And self-assessment, really for this age group, the self-assessment is not such an easy task. So we always give them some smiley cards for the smiley cards checklist. Like, did my structure really stand tall? Did I use different materials to guide their own self-evaluation? And holistic learning is nothing but they started their math connection by counting the number of blocks they had just used it for their construction. And few of them, they just started to measure the foot span to connect the distance from the school to the park. So this helps them to connect their math. And next is the main thing here is the social emotional development. That is the teamwork of the learners. So this key elements, this focus on the student agency, the choice and the self-directed learning. This also encourages them to be independent through the open-ended questioning. This emphasizes the student-led decision and not the teachers. Next, this inquiry could be flexible and this can happen in different ways. So, I just have a question. Is it always possible to give voice for our learners in the classroom? So, it's all 50-50 only because each learner is unique. Sometimes we just may need to have the structured inquiry approach. So here I have an example of 5E model of inquiry. Is my screen visible? Yes. Okay. So this 5E model of inquiry, this focus on the structured learning sequence. So that helps the learners to guide the inquiry. That is, this is nothing but a step-by-step stage to scaffold their learning from curiosity to understanding. This combines our guidance and the student exploration to develop their knowledge. So this forms a cycle, 5 E's, which is easy for us to remember. Engage, explore, explain, elaborate, evaluate. So engage is nothing. Our goal is to that nurture their curiosity in the mind of young learners to ask questions. And explore is the hands-on discovery. The learners, they experiment, they observe, and they explore without any direct instruction from us. So this allows the play-based learning through trial and error. Next is explain. So the learners, they share what they learn through exploration. We just help them to connect the observation to the concepts with simple explanations. Next is elaborate. The learners, they start applying what they learned in a new way. So this helps them to think independent and more problem solving. And the next is evaluate. So the learners, they start reflecting what they learned to share their own understanding. So to explain this with an example, just give me a minute. Yes, this is engaging approach, 5E model engaging approach. So here I have taken one of our strategy that we had used in our classroom. So engage. So what do you think is happening to the seed? So here I just showed them the dry seed and the sprouted seed. So as usual, we got lot of answers. Since we had showed the green gram seed, one child who had seen the sprouted seed told me that we can eat this directly, but not the dry seed. And we just asked others, what do you notice here? What do you think is happening to the seed? To activate their prayer knowledge, we just ask them to predict. So, what is going to happen to the seed if you water it every day? So, there starts the exploration. So, to encourage their active participation, they just explored the concept through the observation and experiment. That is, we had given the learners seeds, soil, and water. They soaked themselves, they planted the seeds, and they observed the changes to discuss their findings in small groups. So, the explanation part. At last, we discuss the basic needs of the plant. So, this helps the learners to understand that the plants need air and sunlight, water, and soil to grow. They also understood the different stages of the plant growth. That is, from the sprout, it goes from seed, we get the sprout, the shoot, the plant, sapling, and then to a plant. So, to make it more elaborate, so wherever we grow some plants, sure we could find some healthy plant and a wilting plant. So I just asked them to compare the difference between the healthy plant and the wilting plant. So this helped them to connect to real world scenarios, explaining which is healthier. So this made the learners understand that when we really water the plant, if a wilting plant is present over there, it may absorb all the nutrients and the healthy plant may remain as such. So we should remove the weeds often. So to evaluate their understanding, we observe the actions taken by them. So we got the reflections like drawing the stages of the plant growth, explaining how we get a plant from a seed. And we also noticed the learners doing the role play of how the what happened to the plant if we really water it, and what happens if we don't water it every day. So I just have a question to all of you. Since we are all superheroes in handling the inquiry in our class, just tell me your superpower. That is my superpower in facilitating the inquiry in the classroom. So here is a barcode. Just scan it using the Google Lens and just post your answers in the Mentimeter. Just scan this QR code using this Google Lens and just post the answers in the Mentimeter. Enthusiastic approach, exploring, yeah. We always allow the learners to explore. Creating curiosity, yes. Experimental learning, great. Exploring visual learning, of course. Dig deeper and explore. Questioning, the positive drive. Hands-on exploration, VTRs, attentive classroom, observance, student agency, visible thinking routines, visual learning, bringing confidence to SP. Yeah. Story, finding out, learner centric, provoking curiosity, safe and engaging space, transdisciplinary, creating interesting games. Of course, yes. To cater to differentiated learning, yeah. Developing patience, safe and engaging space, fostering the imagination, involvement of the whole class, safe and engaging space, bringing the confidence, field trips, of course, student agency, yeah, differentiated learning, joyful talk with the children, yes, collaboration, safe, engaging space, interactive activities, energetic approach. Wow, thank you so much, participants, for all these answers. So mainly, most of them revolves around the curiosity. Yes, of course. So that is the main thing. When we handle inquiry for this young learners, of course, we should ignite the curiosity in them. Only then we could take the inquiry forward. Yes. Yes. Next is framing an inquiry-based classroom environment. So, inquiry-based classroom environment plays a major role for this early learners. Do you all agree with me? Yes. Yeah, thank you so much. Yes. Now, role of the teacher as a facilitator, setting up the learning spaces, using the provocations, loose parts, and real world materials. So, the role of teacher as a facilitator. So, here we always act as a guide, and the child-led exploration takes place over there. We are the silent observers. Then we document and scaffold their learning. We create an environment where the learners wonder, they explore, and they make mistakes. So here the best example I could tell them is setting up a pretend play corner. So we may all have a pretend play corner in all our classrooms. Here we all have. So even if you don't have, just start setting up a pretend play corner in all your classrooms, and that plays the major role for an inquiry. That is, so once they had done completed with some activity, they run chasing over there to the pretend play corner. Yes. Or even if they had completed their lunch, they rush to the pretend play corner. So there the learning is completely visible. And next, this helped them to be more independent, and that engaged them without giving any instructions. And that's the fun way to engage their learning, where they explore all their skills like numeracy, social, communication, the social emotional development. Next is setting up the learning spaces. That is the learning stations. nature corners for the independent exploration, inquiry boards, accessing materials for hands-on learning. So here, setting up a learning space. So always the learning spaces that are set should be easily accessible by the children. It's not that they ask and we provide them. It should be easily accessible to them. So we are just as silent observers over there. So the best example here could be the nature exploration corner in all our classes. So we should start changing the nature materials then and there. And if you just set up a magnifying glass and the natural objects, that shows a major understanding of the children, wherein they start creating their own story out of it. And the next is the story corner in all our classrooms, that is with some props. Sometimes they enact in the form of characters and they narrate the story. Sometimes we could see the children completely imitating us. And the picture books, the read alouds, that encourage them to do more of role play and the creative engagement. Next is using the provocations, loose parts, and the real world materials. That is the thought provoking objects, images, the loose parts like the wooden blocks, the nature materials for their open ended play, the real world materials which they use in their daily life, that is the measuring cups, the mirrors. So all these things, to stimulate the curiosity with the open-ended materials, we should provide them with some nature materials, the wooden blocks, the buttons, and the other loose parts in an art station. A separate art station can be set up in all the classes, which helps them to create their own structures out of it. So a water play station can be set outside the classroom twice a week, which really helps the learners to learn the measurement concepts. Since they start pouring the water, since they start transferring it, they start counting it. 1, 2. So there comes the measurement, the number counting, and the hand span measurement. So the child, if he really knows how to measure it, whatever the objects, even they start to measure their writing table or the chowkis, whatever we have in our classroom, they start to measure it using their hand span. Once when we start the foot span, when we just turn around, we could see 10 to 12 children around them imitating us. So there they could learn with the foot span. That encourages them to explore the size and comparison. And the next is the mirrors and measuring cups. So as I said, measuring cups, we could have it in the water play station, and the mirrors. So mirrors in all the classroom, that plays a major role, where the children, they start their day using the positive note. So here I have few examples. Yes. That is, first one is the loose parts and the nature play. Here we had just provided them the nature materials like flowers, twigs, leaves, different color flowers, then the pine cones, shells, and all those things. You know, the children, we just encourage them. We didn't show them anything. We just told them that you could take whatever you want and you can start arranging whatever that comes to your mind. So it was actually a well thing. That is, the sensory play takes place here. They start sorting and their real creativity falls here. So once everything is done, they started for the gallery walk, wherein they were able to connect with the nature themselves, and they start creating their own story out of it. So the next one here is for the winter setup, that is for the provocation of winter setup, we had just placed in the winter jacket and the winter hat. So, which made the learners understand that that's a winter season. And there the discussion started, like how to take care of ourselves during this particular season. So, the self care, taking care of themselves. Immediately, when they come next day, they started to bring the mittens of their siblings and they just placed it over there. So this is nothing. When we just nurture the curiosity in young learners, the remaining they will take it from there. And the next here is the pretend play station. This pretend play station we had set in for our family inquiry. So a small mini kitchen setup had been set, wherein the learners, it was there for almost 45 to 50 days, wherein we could see they never get bored. Every day they want to access it. Like they had just taken the role, they just started doing the role play as a chef, the shopkeepers, and a few of them, they started enacting the responsibilities of their family members. So if a child had just acted like a grandma today, next day she want to act like her mom. So this was there in almost 50 days in our classroom, wherein the children, they never get bored. Even when we move on to the next inquiry, they were asking for the same thing where they need to explore it again and again. So this helps them to enhance their social skills. The social emotional development plays a major role over here, and it also improves their imagination and creativity. The next one here is the cultural and real life connection. So it's a complete traditional Indian setup was made with some bangles, even the food like the curd rice, the dishes like chapati, all the things were placed it over here, and the household things were kept. For our main motto is to make the children understand about the culture and tradition. So once this provocation had been set here, the conversation started. Like when dhoti was placed it over there, a child said, my father used to wear dhoti during all our family occasions. Immediately the other child stated that my papa used to wear coat and pant for our family occasions. So this made the learners understand the different culture and the tradition. Even we had just narrated them the story, and they started even doing role play out of this. So this discussion even led, how do they celebrate birthdays in their home. So each family, they celebrate the birthday in different ways. So that lead to the discussion over there. The next one here is the layered sensory board. That is for the textures and layers. So different textures were placed in the materials like the stones, the sticks, the soil layers, and the fabric, which were placed it over here. This had been done in one of our class for their census inquiry. So sensory walk. So this made the learners understand about their tactile and their visual learning. So from this they understood not all the textures are same. So there may be few may be hard, few may be soft, and few may be rough. So this helps them to understand more about their senses. This also help them to understand about the senses vocabulary, that is like pricky, the smooth, hard, soft, bumpy, all these words. So the next one is the transportation. So this setup had been done in one of our classroom for their transportation inquiry. So this just made them to understand the different ways of transport, the different transportation modes, land transport, air transport, water transport. So this sparked their discussion on transportation, wherein the learners, they themselves had started bringing the toys and they added on to this setup. So, to connect it to real life, we just ask them which mode of transport is really easier and which is the cheapest mode of transport, which goes literally fast. Almost it takes 1 hour to reach from this place to this place. So, this made them understand and help them to connect it to their real life. And the next is for the animals inquiry, that is for the animal habitat. Here, the teachers had just set up the different environments like for the domestic animals, desert animals, the polar region, the ocean animals, and the jungle setup, wherein the learners, they themselves had got the animals and they sorted it out based on the different environmental habitat. So this really made them to, and this also led to the conversation like the life cycle of few of the animals. Like if you take an elephant, how long it could run. So all these conversations also had been taken place here for this habitat setup. And the next is the uses of plants. So here for our plant inquiry, we had to make the learners understand the uses of plants. We had just placed only the fruits and vegetables. And we just put up a question over there. Where do we get all these from? So they said we get the fruits and vegetables from plants. So to just spark their curiosity, we just added on, do we get only fruits and vegetables from plants? So they themselves, they went home, they just brainstormed themselves, they discussed with their parents, and next day it was really amazing for us that the learners, they themselves had come up with the things like the jute bags, spices, the perfume, the incense sticks, even the medicines, that is the nasal drops they use, the cotton, the wooden comb, saffron, all these things, they themselves had got it and added on to their provocation table. And the next is the setup of Christmas celebration. So here for KG2 learners, we have a celebration inquiry. So we almost used to celebrate all our festivals. So this had been, all these crafts had been completely made by the learners, which helps them to promote that festive joy and creativity. So all these things, so the provocation, the classroom setup for the inquiry plays a major role for this early years learners. As I said, it should be visually appealing for them and they should use their senses. Yes. Moving on to the next slide is integrating the inquiry into early years, early learning areas. So integrating inquiry here is like math and logical thinking. So exploring the numbers, patterns, shapes, and measurements through play. We help them to encourage their exploration and discovery through play. So here, the young learners, a basic example could be, we just give the learners the wooden puzzles, wherein initially they start by sorting them. They sort based on the size, and few they sort based on the color, and few based on the shape, which helps them to identify the patterns. So if you just make the children to count, they start exploring with the counting and the shapes, and this helps them to, once if they had done something, that is for example if they are constructing something out of it, you could just ask them to measure it, using the non-standard units like handspan, counting the number of cubes that they had used to build. So all these concepts helps us to integrate with math and logical thinking. Next is the science and nature. So here field trip, sensory exploration, simple hands-on and nature-based learning. The best example here I could say is the nature walk. So when we take our children for the nature walk, they start collecting the leaves, the twigs, stones, the dried flowers. They also observe the insects moving and they listen to the birds' sounds. And they themselves start asking the questions like, why do the leaves have different shapes? Where do the ants really go for food? So all these helps them for their early thinking. And if we just used to send our learners to sandpit twice in a week. So when we just send them to the sandpit, we used to split them, like they themselves will split upon. Few would be playing with the wet sand and few would be playing with the dry sand. But usually when you see, the crowd would be mostly near the wet sand because they want to make small miniatures out of that wet sand. So this also helps them to connect it to their real life experiences where they start creating their own story. So next is language and literacy, storytelling, read aloud, conversation cards, discussion based learning. So when we connect it to inquiry, we just make the learners to read with the sentence reading cards that is related to the inquiry, the matching cards, sequencing, object talk, then who am I, command cards, the community helper cards. So all these help them to enhance their reading based on their inquiry. Next, instead of just reading a story to the children, we should just ask the children to act it out using their puppets. We should encourage them simple role plays, which take them more towards the end of the year. And these things helps them to really build their confidence and vocabulary. So the next is social and personal identity. That is family, community, and cultural explorations. So this I would like to explain you with a small example, that is the cultural dress up day, which we had towards the end for family inquiry, wherein the children, they dressed up themselves based on their own traditions. So the clothing, the food from the different cultural backgrounds, that plays a major role over here. And moving on to the next slide. So these are the few images that I like to show you for the integration. So the first is the picture of the role play. So wherein the children, they themselves had taken the different characters and they enacted it based on their own interests. They came up with simple dialogues which really enhances their vocabulary building. And as I said, since we have celebration inquiry, this is the picture of celebrating Ganesh Chaturthi in our school. So the learners, they got the flowers wherein we helped them to make this the floral arrangement of Ganesha, and the modak was made as a part of a celebration wherein we just involve the children to just roll it, spread that, and keep the stuffing inside. So once everything is done, they started distributing it to their friends and helpers. And this is one family photo frame, which we had done for our family inquiry. So wherein the learners, they had chosen their own materials. Few said that they want to decorate it using the nature materials, and few they had chosen the straws to decorate it, and one or two they said like they want to use the butt painting to decorate their family photo. And the next is here, uh, the photo frame. Here the child actually he forgot to bring his family photo. So what we had done is, he was sitting all alone and he wants to do it something. So he had decorated a frame using the flowers, and he had taken it home wherein he had fixed his family picture over there. And this is one of our making connection board. So here the connection of the inquiry could be in the form of the mindful coloring, the dance, the yoga pictures, then the math connection, and that's something related to the language, that is their vocabulary building using their mystery bag activity. And next is the mood meter. So this actually we have done this year for our play inquiry, that is play that is related to emotions. So the main concept given to them was, how do I feel today? So this had been done for a complete week. So towards the end of the day, they used to record like how they really felt that particular day. So, and they didn't end up with that, they also given us the answers like, why am I happy today, why I feel angry today. So we just made the child to calm down by taking the long deep breaths. And here a child is just arranging, she had sorted out the nature materials based on the colors, and she had arranged it as a part of her nature walk activity. So next, moving on to my next slide, is the visible thinking routine. Yes. So there are many visible thinking routines, but very few I have taken here, which actually we had worked with our learners. So all-time favorite of all the facilitators would be the See, Think, Wonder, that encourages the observation and inquiry. Next is Think, Pair, Share, which encourage the discussion and the reflection part. Next is the CSI, color, symbol, image, which help them to express their understanding and creativity. And my favorite, that is, I used to think and now I think. This really encouraged the reflection on inquiry, which could be the feed forward for us teachers. Next is the 3-2-1 bridge. That is to check their understanding, that is their prior understanding, and the once the inquiry had been completed, that is the connection to the prayer and the new knowledge. Next could be the think, puzzle, explore. So this encouraged the curiosity and integration. So I have few examples which we really tried in our school. So the first one would be the See, Think, Wonder. So the footprints, the patterns of the animals have been given to the children. That is, we had just taken few of them and we had given it to the children. So given by this picture, we just asked them, what do you know? What do you see here? So I see the different footprints. So this is from the child's perspective. So I see different footprints in the sand. And what do you think is happening? I think this belongs to different animals. And what do you really wonder about it? So I wonder which animal made them and where are they going? So the next is think, pair, share. This often we used to do for the object talk, that is show and tell. So instead of giving an object and ask the child to talk about it, this could be really interesting for them. That is the mystery box activity. That is wherein we should change the objects every day, and we just ask the child, what do you think this is? So few they may identify, but there are learners who really need help. So we should pair up according to it. And the learners, they paired up with their partner, like what they think and why. And once it's done, they just each pair, they share their own thoughts. And we just help them based on our criteria to build on the ideas. So this is about the think, pair, share. So the next one is CSI, color, symbol, image. So color, what color best represents this image? So obviously the child, he or she may come up with the colors that they are seeing here. This actually we had done for our Independence Day. Yes, for the celebrations we had taken this. And what symbol best represented and what image represents this? What comes to your mind when you see this image? So the next is think, puzzle, explore. So for our emotions inquiry, we had given with different colors. So what do colors make you feel? So obviously wherever they see yellow, they would come up saying yellow makes me happy and blue makes me sad, or blue feels sad. So what do you wonder about the colors? So what happens if we mix this? And how could we explore it? So we can mix it and we could paint it. And the next is, as I said, this is my all-time favorite. I used to think and now I think. So for living and non-living things, first we just ask the children, like, what do you used to think of this? So they said, I thought all the things that move are alive. So really, this is the answer we got from the children of a KG1 learner. So I think all things that move are alive. So what do you think now? Now I think only the things that grow, eat, and breathe are alive. So this is one best thinking routine and a simple routine that we could use with all our learners. So the next is 3-2-1 bridge. Often we used to connect this thinking routine for our seasons inquiry. So how the world works. So this helps the learners to connect their prior and their new understanding. So we could also check how their thinking has shifted. So what do you know about the rain? So we got the answers like wet, clouds, and puddle. And any two questions do you have? Yeah, why does it rain? Where does the water goes after it stops? And a sentence, rain is like a shower for the earth. So after inquiry, think of any three words that comes to your mind. So drizzle, thunder, the dancing peacock, and how do we protect ourselves? Since they experience, we just made the learners to bring all the things and we just made the learners to experience the drizzle. So what happens when we eat ice cream during the season? So based on their discussion, the sentence we received is, when it rains, we wear the raincoats and we jump in the puddles. So, these are the 6 thinking routines which we really work on. And a few graphic organizers that you could use is the Venn diagram for compare and contrast, and the story map for making the children understand the story setup, the elements and the characters, and the KWL chart. With this, we could use it before we go on a field trip. So the next is assessment in inquiry-based learning. So when a word assessment comes to our mind, we just pop out saying monitoring, documenting, measuring, and reporting. So in early years, when you take in early years, the monitoring could be only 40%, the documenting remaining 30%, measuring 10%, and the reporting 20%. So what do we really monitor in this young learners? So as I said, we are always the silent observers. So we closely observe the learners' interactions, their questions, and their problem solving during play. So we observe how the child holds the pencil while writing. We watch how the learners really interact during their play. We just observe how they just being with the group during the inquiry activities. And if you take for a 2.5-year child, we could just observe whether the child could really recognize all the colors, if a child could follow all the classroom routines. So these are the things we use to monitor in this age group. So next is documenting. So what do we really document for this early years learners? Is nothing. The evidence is majority evidence is all about the photos. So taking the photos of the learners when they engage in hands-on experiences, keeping the artwork, the worksheets in a learning portfolio, then writing the aha moments. Then and they record their aha moments in the anecdotes, when a child solves some problem, or when a child really helped the other one, when he or she exhibit the learner profile. All these could be recorded as an anecdote. Recording the voice when they narrate a story. And in inquiry, we document in the form of journals and continuums. And the learning stories, that is collection of their drawing, the writing reflections, so the growth in thinking skills. Next is measuring. So we measure the physical milestone of their growth. We compare the child's pre-writing skills at the beginning and versus at the end of the term to see his fine motor development. And reporting. So we report on the day of open forum. That is, we just create the report card based on the strengths and the areas for improvement. Then having the parent teachers meeting, that is to discuss about the child's progress, the performance sheets. We always share a portfolio with parents once in a year, and we do have a 1 minute video of the learners. We just share it with the parents while they're narrating the stories, when they present show and tell, or when they read the sentences, all those things. That's a 1 minute video will be sent to the parents every year. So here, the self and peer discussions. So always for self-assessment, we should give them some prompts. So what did you like the most? What was really tricky? Next is evaluating. So evaluating as planning is really for us teachers, because only based on their action and the reflection, that is the feed forward for us teachers to take our teaching to the next level. The process of that inquiry is more important than the product we receive. So here are few assessment strategies. So formative assessments, we could have verbal and non-verbal communication, anecdotal record, checklists, self-reflections, portfolios, role play, thinking routines. And the summative assessments could be the portfolios, journal, continuum, encouraging the real world actions, show and tell, thinking routines, gallery walk. So all these could be the summative assessment strategies. And here the self-reflection prompts. I can take care of a plant. I know what plant needs to grow. I can talk about plants with friends. And the reflection prompts could be my favorite thing about plants and something I learned about plants is. So this is just an example for a self-reflection. And this is all about the teacher's checklist. It's a sample of our campus, that is for the observations and documentation. We could have, if the child can really name the different parts of the plant, is he able to describe the needs of the plant? Is he able to explain like what happens if the plant doesn't get sunlight and water? And if he really participates in hands-on learning, is the child really curious and asks questions? So this could be the teacher's checklist. And this is one of the checklists that they used it for their transportation inquiry. And next, moving on is Katmadoc inquiry cycle. So many of them may knew this. Even this is the inquiry cycle which we use here in our school. So tuning in, finding out, sorting out, going further, making connection, reflection and action. So all these falls under child-centered inquiry. So I just like to take you on a journey of our plants inquiry. So for the theme, sharing the planet, and the central idea is the plants have specific needs in order to grow and stay healthy. So the first lines of inquiry is the condition plants need to stay healthy. So here, the learners, the first activity we had done here over is the nature walk. Learners in groups were taken on a nature walk. So as I said, usually they love to explore the nature, wherein they collected the nature materials, and they sorted it out based on the things. That is, first initially they had stuck everything, and they just circled out the things that can eat, breathe, and grow. So this activity helps them to foster their thinking skills, and that helps them to exhibit the learner profile of being an inquirer. And the next here is the 4-pot experiment. So this experiment has been done for a complete week. So where we had just given them, the learners, to experience themselves. So the pot one with air and sunlight and soil, we didn't give water to the plant. And in the pot two, we didn't give air and sunlight, but we had just provided it water and soil. And pot three with air and sunlight and water and without soil. And in the pot four, we had given all those basic needs. So through this experiment, the learners, they understood the requirement of plants. So this made them to recognize that the plant needs all air and sunlight, water and soil to grow. So the next one here is the seed germination. So the learners, they themselves had involved in the process of soaking it, sowing the seed, wherein they observed it for a whole week, whole complete week. So this helped them to understand the different stages of sprout, shoot, root, saplings, and then a plant. The learners, they also documented the stages of growth over a week in a respective journals. So this helps them to exhibit the learner profile of caring. Next is the caring for plants. This is the lines of inquiry 2. So first is creating a vertical garden. So the learners, they had, few of them had given a separate plot, and few they had got the bottles and the tins from their home, wherein they learners, they themselves had involved in the process of digging the soil. They sowed it, and at last, once the plant has grown big, it has been shifted it to the plots and harvested towards the end of their inquiry. So this really helped them to cultivate the small plants and made them independent. Next is the expert talk from a parent and a gardener. So one of our parents, they volunteered themselves to involve in an expert talk wherein she focused on the parts of the plants that helps to promote the development of caring for plants. And the gardener, he himself had shared the names of few gardening tools, and the process like how to water the plant. If it's a small plant, you should pour only little water to it, and all those things. He had a great discussion with our learners. And next is we had taken on a field trip to a vegetable farm, wherein the learners they experience the different uses of plants, and from there we had taken them to a vegetable market, wherein they explored the different fruits and vegetables. And the next is the do's and don'ts of plants. So this made the learners understand how to take care of plants. That is, we had just provided few, it's been in a separate groups. So here the differentiation has been given, like few of them they illustrated it, and a few of them recorded their voices, and a few of them they just colored and they sorted out the do's and don'ts by the given images. So all these activities made them understand that the development of caring and how to nurture their plants within their surrounding. And the next one is the uses of plants. That is, as I said, this is the provocation table. And the second activity is we had given the fruits and vegetables, and we just asked the learners to sort it out based on its parts. That is, according to the specific parts they grow under. So from this, they understood they get carrot, beetroot, ginger from the root, the cabbage from the leaves, the broccoli and the cauliflower from the flowers, and followed by that they had done tops and bottoms. So the fruits, the vegetables that really grows on the top of the soil, and few that grows below the soil. And this is the other activity that also had been done for to make the learners understand the uses of plants. So this is the making connection. So few of them had illustrated the plant and they tried to name the parts. And the learners once they from the nature walk, they started to measure using the scale, and they colored it for the data handling. And the few children they just measured the things that they had grown out of it, that they just measured the saplings that had grown. And this is a leaf art. And the next is, at last we could just connect it to the fruit salad. We just made a fruit salad. We had got few things, and the learners they themselves involved in bringing few things, and few things, the simple things that they have harvested on their own, and which really helped them to make the fruit salad out of it. And these are the assessments. That is, the zoom in and zoom out strategy has been done for the observation of the plants, wherein they zoomed in from a seed and they zoomed out to a plant. So all about plants. So that encompasses all our LOI. And this is one thing, that is the Papa Chef program. That is wherein we involved all the fathers to just made them involved in fireless cooking, wherein they had come out with different vegetable carvings and different dishes. So this was a good opportunity for the parents to involve in the children's learning. And this is the reflection and action. That is a child, she had illustrated the stages, and she could also explain it beautifully, the stages from the seed to the plant. And after this inquiry, the learners they started bringing the flowers and they started placing it near the god. And a few of them they started to take care of the garden by pouring the water every day. And one child, he just want to show his plant growth. So he had taken out all the things and he had just got it in the form of a reflection. And these are the self and teachers reflection. That is, we just ask the children to rate themselves by coloring the flowers. And this is the end of the session. So I request all my participants to give me the exit ticket, my inquiry reflection. I used to think about inquiry-based learning, but now I think inquiry-based learning is. So kindly scan this QR